Hello Exiles, this is Ryan from Behind Eyes Gaming, and I want to talk today in a POE 2 video why I think that the loot drop situation is probably not going to get any better. I think it's kind of been designed for this patch in a very flawed way as almost like a slot machine mechanic, and it's something overall. I think there's a lot of content creators, especially Fubgun, who made videos kind of explaining the issues with drops, but I think one thing was kind of overlooked or wasn't expanded upon very well, and I want to talk about that today, and that is the problem with rare monsters and how rare monsters had previously dominated the meta as far as generating currency and items, and why I think that's probably still the case. However, I think it might not be the best way to go about things anymore. And I just overall think they kind of framed a nerf to loot as a buff to loot as far as GGG goes. So I want to go through the patch notes here and talk about a couple of specific things here that were here in the patch notes, and that's killing rare monsters required for map completion no longer has a chance to grant monster modifiers to the remaining rare monsters, increases the chance for rare monsters to have 3 or 4 modifiers and maps. Note this means they drop more items. See, this is framed as a buff here. This is mostly to compensate for the removal of rare monsters, granting their modifiers to other rare monsters on death. So just taking a look at these two, you can already see the start of the problem, which is that previously when you killed rare monsters in your map, you would occasionally have modifiers from one rare monster go onto one of the remaining ones when you killed it, increasing the average amount. Now, they said they've increased the chance for 3 to 4 modifiers. However, in my playthroughs and my experience with no kind of added chance for rare modifiers or no rare monster modifiers on maps, it's almost all 2 and 3 modifier monsters, like 95% are 2 and 3 modifier. So if they did increase the chance for 3 and 4, I still see a lot of 2s, and then I guess I see a decent amount of 3s. 2 modifier monsters with no quantity drop like 4 or 5 items, some of which can be converted into gold. So sometimes you're getting like 1 or 2 items and then 3 little piles of gold. It's really bad. And once you get quantity, you can't scale that as hard as you used to because they cut the amount of quantity you get from tablets by a third. They did like double it as far as the top end, what you can get on actual Waystone themselves, but honestly, that doesn't come close to compensating for it. So then we have tablet modifier for rare monsters. Having an additional modifier can no longer roll. You'll see the reason why they did this when we go down. And before I go over that, I also want to talk about the changes to the skill tree because they're related. So previously, instead of ecological shift down here, we had a nice little node called Deadly Evolution, which would add 1 to 2 additional modifiers to rare monsters. And if you didn't know, as I put in this image, rare monsters have a 2400% quantity and 1000% rarity boost, or at least that's how it was. I'm not sure if that changed this patch. I made this last patch because I was going to do a video on rarity and magic find. And then you get additional bonuses per modifier. The only clues we really have to that exact bonus is that they said when they buffed loot that they increased the rarity per modifier by 25% at one point. So that is pretty much the only indication we have as far as what has changed there. We don't know how much quantity and rarity it gives on top of that or besides that. And then of course they kind of also got rid of Lucky Pillage, and we only have 4% item quantity on the tree now as well. So less rarity, less quantity on the tree. We also have less tablet effect on the tree on top of that. And we also, it's just less of pretty much every single scaling vector. But like I said, Fubgun talked about that. And now, we have these, it's not great. It's not great overall. You have, enigmatic intensification is down here now. Remnants of power is down here. But we have less tablet effect and overall just not good. So going back to that, so overall, less monster modifiers. Now, why did they do that? Well, that's for the next little bit here, which is right here. adding added a series of enhanced rare monster modifiers that are more powerful than the standard versions and more rewarding. Some rare monster modifiers now scale at later levels, providing better rewards. This is fine. This kind of incentivizes, rolling higher tier maps. Before you could just run on lower tier maps and there'd be basically no difference in drops. Now there is a difference, I guess, running higher tier maps. So that's cool. But it doesn't matter when the baseline is so bad and so low. So I think they got rid of a lot of the rare monster modifier stuff, specifically because they didn't want people, spawning these extra enhanced rare monster modifiers all the time. You definitely notice when you hit them, because you'll be running in a map that is dropping nothing, 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 and then you get like 2 exalts in a chaos, or you get like a divine in an exalt. They're seemingly very infrequent though, from my experience. There doesn't seem to be a lot of them. Some of them seem to have different conversions. Like I've just had like 12, 15 huge piles of gold drop from some of them. So they're not even always going to just drop better gear or anything, or better loot. Sometimes they're going to drop, random stuff you don't really want or need, which makes it even worse. So you're already just pulling this slot machine lever over and over and over again. Just keep pulling it. It's harder to scale everything. Overall, just made it a lot worse. So what can you kind of do about this? Well, there's a couple of different solutions, I guess. First of all, you can pull that slot machine lever even more. Just scale a bunch of rare monsters. Instead of going quantity, just make more quantity by more rare monsters. They did not nerf that. So you get the 15 or 20% increased rare monsters on your map. You put, whatever, if you get 4 overlapping towers, then you can get 12 tablets of that. You get just a ton of extra rare monsters, and you just kill a lot of them, hoping you get the extra, super modifier drop, the nemesis. We'll just call them the nemesis. Get the nemesis drops. Alternatively, or along with that, of course, you just run the rare monster modifier prefix on your waystones. However, the other things are that you want both the quantity rarity hybrid roll as well as the high rarity roll on your maps already, or else the loot's going to suck anyway. You're not going to convert your lower tier currencies to high tier currencies. So you're already going to want that high rarity roll as high as possible, preferably with the hybrid quantity as well. So I mean, it's going to be hard to get all 3 of those modifiers. There is an anoint, but it is one of the higher ones. Each anoint gives you 20% delirious, and then a 25% chance to have rares have an additional modifier. This is great. If you can get to the point where you can afford anointing 3 of these on that all the time, that's awesome. That'll probably put you in a good running for a lot of loot. However, it's just not attainable for most people. All of the methods for kind of counteracting all of these changes, for the most part, are just kind of awful. I think your best bet is honestly to get a bunch of tablets that have quantity as well as the increased chance for strongbox. Then you get all the strongbox nodes, throw in the 150% chance increase for researchers strongbox, and you just try to get as many research strongbox every single map as you can do. Roll them all up. Try to get the more rarity and the increased quantity on all of them, and maybe even the increased rare monsters for more chances at those jackpot loots. All that kind of stuff. That might be the best way to get loot, and probably one of the only good ways of getting loot currently. I guess you also can get a bunch of rare monsters additionally, as far as like breach. And you can kind of force them on with the breach modifier that gives an extra rare spawning per breach. And now that you could technically get more overlapping tablets, you could get like 12 extra rares per breach, but then you're getting rid of the chances for extra breach that you could be rolling on those tablets as well. So there's kind of a loss there too. So it's a little difficult to say. I think that also doesn't really scale with waystone effect. So you're kind of wasting some extra potential juice that way too. I'm not really sure that there is a lot of great endgame farms. I think there probably are that are comparable to the previous patch, but yeah, I think overall not so great. I'm going to play Last Epoch for a couple of days and then come back with kind of a fresh head. Maybe they will have moved on. I know they have like a holiday coming up here. They got the Easter holiday, I think, and whatever they have going on. Apparently a lot of holidays around this season in New Zealand. So we'll let them do their thing, let them cook. In the meantime, I might go back and play and try out some of the strategies I talked about. But up until that point, just going to do a couple of days of Last Epoch. Probably not going to make any videos on it because I don't really know much about it, and yeah, won't be super helpful. But I hope you're enjoying. If you're still enjoying Path of Exile 2, that's great. But I'm looking forward to the changes they do for loot drops, and I hope they do acknowledge or tweak the rare modifiers, because I do think that is a big part of the reason there's an issue. This has been Ryan from Behind Eyes Gaming, and I'll see you next time. Bye.